Welcome to Masterclass. We're kicking off season 2 today with Brad Britton. And just a brief introduction here for JBB is he's got a lot of content to be able to dive in. Thank you for joining us live. We are going to continue to host these on Tuesdays at 1 o'clock Eastern. That is 10 a.m. Pacific time. And I know that doesn't work for everybody. Some of you are going to watch this later because you run training during that time, or you're on campus, or you have a call with your DVM, and that's fine. But for those of you that can make it, you're going to make this event even better. This is designed to be interactive, informal learning, and in extended form. We've got 90 minutes set aside for us today. We're going to go to 2:30 Eastern time. And hey, if we're done at 2:15, we might just kind of stop recording at that point. But I'll linger for a little bit afterwards. This is one of my favorite ways to stay connected with all of our Vector friends, especially in a world where we just haven't been getting together outside of something like P Banquet, which was last week, and absolutely epic if you haven't seen the pictures or the promos. Brad Britton started in 1988. And I know as I'm talking to this group here, many of you are like, I was born in 2000. I'm like, oh man, that's crazy. Right? So Brad Britton goes, I have kids older than you, which is fun. So one of the things I love about Masterclass is this allows us to hear from people who have spoken at SLC many times in the past, but you maybe didn't get a chance to hear from them this year. And because Brad lives out west, maybe you wouldn't have access to Brad. Some of you saw the promotion I put up. I was able to get the real number here today. As real as we can determine here, Brad Britton has been responsible, or at least touched, over $280 million worth of Cutco. Over $280 million worth of Cutco. There's no close second, by the way. This is by far and away the clubhouse leader for Cutco sales career. He's 3 times President's Club, which is fired up. Promoted to branch in 11 months. There's a bunch of just background stuff that you would just never hear or remember. But number 2 branch in Vector in 1989. I don't care how much it was. You might tell us later. But number 2 in the world is number 2 in the world. He has run offices in Beaumont, Texas. I did not know Oklahoma City. I'm learning stuff here today. I started in 1993. I believe you were running Sacramento, California back then. Anaheim, he was the number 1 district in the nation in 1993, which is part of the reason I knew his name early in my career. It was like storied career, and he won it by 200K plus, so it wasn't like close. Number 1 Division Elite 8 in 2020. So here's what's amazing. He's Silver Cups back in the day, Silver Cups today. And that means he's reinvented himself several times over that period. Top 10 division, 94, 95, 6, 7, 8, 9. I mean, there's a nice run there. And again, in 15, 16, 17, 18, we'll talk a little bit, I think, today about why that wasn't just all the way through. There's a little bit of a hiatus there, a little bit of a dash, I would say, on the resume. President's Banquet 16 times. Wow. Academy of Champions 21. Standard of Excellence 13. Of course, Hall of Fame member as well. He's gone deep there. First $1 million office for him was in 2015, which again is kind of the renaissance here for Brad. $2 million office in 2015, which is fantastic, by the way. In case you aren't aware, you get a really sweet Rolex when you hit $2 million. I mean, the first Rolex all Rolexes are sweet, hear me right. You get the next one at $2 million, it is a big deal. Brad Britton was promoted to region sales director. So we had our best DVMs in the day, and we promoted them to region sales directors. We thought, boy, we want to just spread their influence all over the entire region, not just that little pocket, not just these states or provinces. We want to make their influence much wider. And that was 99. He was then promoted to region manager, so running all the Western region. And they were number 1. This run was 2002, 2003, 2004. Folks, this is, from today's standpoint, this is the Tom Brady. That's what it is. The Tom Brady, how about it? The GOAT. The Tom Brady of sales here and leadership at Vector. So I don't want to walk you through. There is I might post this. If you didn't include this, by the way, Brad, as a handout, with your permission, I would love to put it up because this is just really cool. He's got all the places he's traveled to, all the places he does philanthropic, Cutco Cares type work at as well. And it's a fascinating read. Even if you don't know him, this is a great way to kind of get to know him a little bit. So, hey, without further ado, this is my friend, and one of my original mentors, J. Brad Britton here. Let's give him a little vector. Hello, welcome, snappy, jazz hands, all the above. Welcome, JBB.
Hey,
listen,
thanks a lot.
You've got lots of directions here you can go. We're going to use the chat to be able to interact here with you. If you've got questions here for Brad, I'll let you catch those in real time. I may pause or interrupt you here and there just to kind of go a little bit deeper, because his mind works quickly, doesn't it? Even still. So, J. Brad Britton, what do you want to talk about first here today? This is the kicking off season 2.
All right.
Well,
I will unmute myself. I can do that. I know how to do that. Zoom. Lord. All right. So hello, everybody, and welcome. And hey, thanks for being here live. I know a lot of folks watch the downloads later or watch the recordings later. I know sometimes when I miss something, I intend to watch the recording, and I happen to only watch it maybe half the time when I actually intend to. Maybe you're better than that. Maybe you're not as good as that. But being here live, I just appreciate knowing who shows up and seeing the faces, and it's it makes me feel good, that you take the time to show up and listen to what this old guy has to say. I don't think I'm going to spend a ton of time, unless there's questions afterwards, about my career, like what I did in Vector and those kind of things. And I was out of Vector for a 9-year period where I was doing various consulting and these type of things. I've talked about that before, I think, on one of the podcasts. There's why did you move on to do something else, and why did you come back, and all that. Someone wants to really know that, I'll be happy to answer questions on that. But I was talking to Trent a little bit ago about what do we talk about here, leadership. Well, that's a pretty broad topic. And he said something that I hadn't actually heard in a really long time. He said, aim small, miss small. So there's your first nugget. So if you're going to be talking to somebody about a topic or delivering a message at a team event or division meeting or whatever, the tighter you can get your little topic, the less likely you are to miss it, I suppose. Okay, so back in what year? Probably 2001, 2002. In that time frame, I was in a very philosophical point in my career. I was in a region manager at the time, and somehow I came up with these 4 core life philosophies, right? I've been interviewed on a couple little podcast type things here and there about these 4 philosophies. And I spent like 2-3 years just doing nothing but, well, I shouldn't say nothing, but mostly thinking about these philosophies and teaching them to the Western region, building the foundation for what ended up being, I don't know how many years in a row, Western region was silver cups. Now the Southwest region seems to have, be dominating that, but I think it was 14 years in a row, something like that. We had silver cups, while I was a region manager, and then for like 9 years or something after that, or 8 years, whatever it was. Anyway, these 4 core philosophies, I actually just I started teaching them, and I published sort of a book. Okay, it's not really a book that I published and sold. I just made like 500 copies of this pamphlet. Okay, it's all it is. And as far as I know, this is one of the. Trent, did you ever get one of these, by the way, in your day? You did. I don't remember who got them or why they got them, but I'll get a text.
I think you hand delivered it to me, I think. Yeah.
Did I? Well, okay.
Yeah,
I don't know.
appreciate
it. And I'll get a text message or a Facebook messenger message or even an email sometimes, or even sometimes a handwritten note where someone will say, hey, I was appreciating something in your little pamphlet. All this is, it's just a little pamphlet of quotes and little stories and just little things. Not very much of it's are actually original. Most of it is things that I either took from other places or paraphrased in some way or another. And people will say, yeah, it's in my bathroom. It sits on the back of my toilet, and I just look at it every once in a while. So I'm like, I'm not sure how I feel about that exactly, but at least people are still looking at it. But there's 4 philosophies right there. And here they are, if I can do this right: connection, execution, simplicity, and gratitude. Those were the four things. I've added another one since then. About 4 years ago, I added the word contribution. So now I feel like I have 5 core life philosophies. And any one of these, I say, I could talk for an hour on any one of these subjects, right? And so when Trent said aim small, Miss Small, I thought, well, I'm just going to concentrate on one of these, and I figured I'd just pick the first one. So here's what I want you to do first in the chat. I'm going to say this life philosophy, and I just want you to do word association. Just what's the first thing that comes to mind? It might be a person, it might be a place, it might be a thing, it might be an activity, it might be a verb, an adverb. I don't care what it is. There's no wrong answer. But when I say the word connection, what's the first thing you think of? Just the word connection. Just drop in the chat. The word interlock. Good. Oh, interesting. Good. Relationships, relationship, trust. Okay, good. David. I see Edson said relationships, Dakota relationship, Jonathan relationships. Who else? What's the first thing that comes to mind? You just think of the word connection. I'm getting mostly relationship stuff here. Interlocking and relationships. Okay. Mike Schmidt says understand. That's really good. So a lot of good thoughts on that. I'm going to do a screen share in a way that oops, that's not the way I want to do it. Hold on. I'm going to try this screen share like this, you guys. I like to do this way. You guys ever do the screen share where your background is the slides? That's my favorite way to do the screen share. I hope it records properly. Like this. You guys ever do this? Do it this way? Did you even know you could do this? This is my favorite way to do it. I don't know why. So anyway, I'm going to do it like this, at least for a little while, unless I need to, show something else. So the key here is connection. That's what we're going to talk about, the art and science of connection. I had to say the art and science of connection because there's actually a book called The Art of Connection, which I've looked at some philosophers' notes on, but I haven't actually read that particular book. But I had to put it on my list as I was preparing for this. So in this little thing right here, okay, I introduced a chapter on connection with these words. Okay, I know it's a lot of words, but I didn't know any other way to kind of get this started off besides basically reading this. So I just took the dictionary definition, the linking or bonding of two or more parts or things. So Rob, you said interlock, so that was kind of right on the money on that. But then this is my own personal commentary here. And it's just this, it says, life is not about tasks and accomplishments. I think we in Vector a lot of times get caught up with a lot of that. Life is about relationships. Many of you, that's what you put when you thought of the word connection. To experience a healthy, positive human interaction is one of our most basic needs. Living with connection, I got to move my camera out of the way here so I can see what I'm saying. Living with connection as a core value means that we actively pursue it. It means we make decisions and take actions that lead to greater and deeper connection. Consider our many opportunities, connection opportunities each day. Our goal should be to help or to make each connection greater and deeper. From our families to business associates, customers, flight attendants, supermarket cashiers, connections can be made stronger and more satisfying on each end of the connection. The more we truly connect, the more we truly live. Okay, so that's how I introduced this section of the little pamphlet thing, booklet. And I want you to remember this last sentence. Okay, I'm going to come full circle with this sentence. The more we truly connect, the more we truly live. Is that true? Is it not true? What does that mean? It's just, if you want to ever quote me, there's one of the things you could quote that I believe is original. So what I want to do is I want to talk about, and once again in the chat, what do you think are some important connections? When you think about, okay, what's an important connection for me? What do you think of? What's an important connection? Just drop a few. Okay, family's a really good one, Hans. Okay, good. I see a couple of people, family, a teacher or a mentor. David's getting deep on us. Connection with yourself. I love it. Bianca says connection with friends. Love it. Spouse. Okay, Schmid, overachiever, spouse, family, friends, mentor, right? Lots of really good ones. So I listed a few things that some of you have thought of. Some of you may not have. Family, important that you may have connections with your family. Bosses, important connection with bosses or managers. Peers, business associates, customers, God. Nobody put God, but I think that's an important connection for a lot of people. Nature, your inner self. That's David said that. And of course, Trent Booth. It's important to have a good connection with Trent Booth. I mean, that goes without saying, right? So the level of connections it's almost limitless when it comes to thinking about this, because you could say you want to connect with a book, you want to connect with a character in a movie. I mean, there's all kind of ways that you could think about connection. It's a kind of a broad thing. The point I want to make with this, asking that question, is really a quote from Martin Luther King. And he said, it all boils down to this, that all life is interrelated. There's another sentence in there that's not relevant to this part, but whatever affects one destiny affects all indirectly. Okay. So you guys have heard the butterfly effect, and I'm not sure where this whole original idea came from, but the idea that a butterfly flapping its wing in, Wisconsin somehow can affect the price of tea in China, or some kind of thing. Like everything affects everything in one way or another, which, by the way, is probably one of the deepest reasons why I love vector so much, right? I love vector so much. I love what we do, because we serve a cross-section of humanity that I believe is extremely underserved, right? We serve the average Joe and the average Jane, okay? There are organizations after organizations supporting amazing causes. Like there's organizations that support the homeless. We participated in those in Cutco Cares. There's people that build homes for people who need homes. There's people who dig wells for places in the world that don't have clean water, or they make water plants, water treatment facilities. People do hurt relief after a natural disaster. And these are great organizations, and there's tons of them. But there's nobody really that's fully 100% dedicated to the average Joe and the average Jane, helping to elevate the humanity with this very broad cross-section of the population, which, by the way, from the group of people we connect with, that we impact, from that group, that's where all the people that work at and support all these great nonprofits come from. They come from this group of people that we impact, right? There's a lot of people that help the highly gifted, right? There's a lot of organizations that support special needs. I have a special needs son. I'm very appreciative of those things. But all the people that support all those great and amazing causes, one of the reasons they can be effective is because of who shaped them and how they were shaped as young people. And I just think that what we do has some of the most significant impact, unrealized by most of the world, unrealized impact on everybody else, right? Regardless of how my office is doing, how my divisions are doing, if I'm challenged by, financially, or, I'm not getting the results that I want to get, if I can always get back and connect to my purpose, that's another important connection, connecting to a purpose, and knowing that my purpose is not about getting rich, right? I want to make as much money as possible. I want to be as successful as possible. I need to have a long-term passive income to take care of my son when my wife and I are not here to be able to do that. So these things are super important, but those things happen when I can stay connected to this deep sense of purpose that I have. And you may or may not have a similar sense of purpose. I don't think a lot of people become vector managers without having this feeling that they want to help people, right? And I'll use this very cliche term, I want to give back, right? I don't really like that term. I understand what it means, but it's just I'm against cliches in general, but even though you'll hear me use them from time to time. So hopefully that makes sense. And I don't know if that can deepen your conviction in what we do, but because that is such an important thing, that is an important thing for the world, for the benefit of the world long-term, I think it's important that we understand how to be the best at making that impact that we possibly can. And connection, being able to connect, is arguably the most important thing. Those of you that might have read, where's my Dream Machine book? Oh, it's over there. But anyway, here, I'll grab it just so you guys know Dane's book. That's one thing about this, using this, the Dream Machine, right? This book here. As I'm reading through this book, it talks about before you can create a dreams workshop, one of the step one, it says in the book, is connection. Okay, it's right on page, I think I got it marked. Yeah, page 112, step one, build a connection, right? It's like the first thing that you got to do, right? So you have to have a connection to be able to impact, right? To be able to build trust, as someone else mentioned. So I've got 7 tips plus a couple of bonuses. And by the way, if you're taking notes, that's great. I've got a Google folder, Google Drive that you can access that has all my notes that I'm using basically to deliver this message or to talk about these things, which I need to make sure I'm looking at so I don't get too far off track. Those people that know me know that I could tend to get off track a little bit from time to time. What do they call it? Chasing rabbits. I'm the king rabbit chaser when it comes to Kuval. Yeah, never. Kuvi knows. So there's like a few tips and some bonus tips. And then I've got 3 workshops that you can use at a key staff meeting or just use at a staff meeting if you're a DVM or whatever that I've used. I mean, I've used these on so many occasions. I can't even back into the 1990s. I've used almost verbatim these identical workshops. So this first one comes from Dan Cassetta. Okay, this is a good connection checklist. And he says, he uses this term AGAS, right? If you've ever heard Dan talk about it, and AGAS is an acronym for actually give it. Okay. And sometimes people think about connection. And when I say, tell me what connection means to you. And if they're a salesperson or a good networker, a lot of times they'll use the word rapport interchangeably. Interchange, synonymous. And I believe this to be, in one sense of the word connection, very, very true. So as I go through this checklist, think about rapport as the kind of connection that you're trying to build. And rapport can be when you initially meet somebody right off the bat, or rapport can be, deepening a connection with someone that you've already met and you're continuing working with. But actually giving a crap is that's where it starts. None of the technique, everything else that you learn about connecting is just it's a technique or even a manipulation without this, right? Without genuinely having a compassion or passion for another human being. Here's a bonus. Here's a little bonus too, and this is a concept that hopefully will resonate. And the concept is connection over perfection. I can remember talking to many a manager that has a problem with, shouldn't have a problem. They have a challenge with PDI. Okay, PDI, you guys in Vector, we know this is basically the conversations that we have with reps, personal daily interaction, positive daily injection. The challenge that people have is, I don't know what to say. Like, I don't know what to say. I don't know how to, what should I talk about? Okay. And what's happening is they're thinking about perfection. They're like, I got to make sure I have the right things to say, the right things to talk about, when what really matters is connection. Connection comes from energy. Connection comes from listening. Connection comes from a lot of things that we'll talk about in this little deal. And here's another little bonus for you. If you have reps that aren't doing as many demos as you would like them to do, don't teach them how to do a great demo. Doing a great demo is, obviously they need to understand the knives and have conviction and all that, but teach them how to connect, right? When people know how to connect and they feel like that's a strength of theirs, they want to do it more, right? Confidence comes from competence, right? And from confidence and competence comes, work ethic. A lot of times people will tend to do things that they feel confident and competent doing. Right? I say someone, hey, you want to go play basketball? If they're a pretty good basketball player, they're likely to say, yeah, let's go play. If they're not a very good basketball player, they're less likely to want to go play basketball. So you build competence and confidence simultaneously, and people will tend to want to do things more. So don't worry about perfection. And that's a concept you can teach reps at your very next training meeting or workshop if you want, and then have a whole talk on how do you make better connections. And then there'll be some ideas here. Okay, good connection checklist back. Number 2, keep spotlight on the other instead of self. Okay, keep spotlight on the other instead of the self. And what we're talking about here is being interested, not interesting. You probably heard that. First person I heard that say that was Zig Ziglar. I don't know if he was the first person ever to say it. And then I also want you to keep in mind this: curiosity cultivates connection. Okay, curiosity, asking questions, things like that. Now, why do I say this? Keep spotlight on the other instead of the self. Most of you inherently probably know that. Like, oh, of course, yeah, you want to keep the spotlight on other people. However, in practice, it's not something that most people do. First of all, some people don't know that that's kind of the most important thing on building rapport, making a connection. And then the people that do know, they don't do it in practice. And let me give you an example. When you're talking to someone, or we are talking to someone, and it comes up in a conversation that they just went to Hawaii for a couple of weeks. Okay. Well, if you've been to Hawaii, let's say you lived in Hawaii for a year. Okay. The natural thing to do would be to say, oh my gosh, I love Hawaii. I lived there for a year. Okay. Now, what I just did by saying that is I just took the spotlight off of them and put it on me, right? A lot of people think building rapport is finding a connection, finding things that we have in common. Okay. That's about this much of it. Okay. This much of it is being interested in that human being. Okay. Let's say someone says, I went to Brazil for 2 weeks, and you lived in Brazil for a month and a half. Oh my gosh, I lived in Brazil. Did you go here? Did you go here? Did you go here? Right. We just took their focus off of them and put it on us. We see it in conversations. I see reps do it all the time on demos. I see it blatant on social media. Okay. Now I'm going to throw people. I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus unless you go look this up, but I think I have. Okay. So here's a social media post. Ursula Elrod. You guys may know Hal Elrod, his wife, Ursula. Okay. They moved out to a ranch and are raising chickens. Okay. So she puts on here, I seriously can't believe this is my life now. Wouldn't change a second of it. And she's raising chickens. Right. And I like to sometimes judge people. No, I don't say I like to, I just do without really knowing it. I just think that, oh, they don't know how to really build a connection and build a rapport. Because what happens is some people will comment on here and say, hey, good for you. Awesome. That's great. But what half the people a lot of times will do is they will talk about their life in terms of that post. Okay. In some way. And I gave a couple of examples. Here's one. I love my little flock of chickens. I have the best rooster too. You'll have so much fun. So what this person did is they all of a sudden made Ursula's post about them. I love my chickens. You see what I'm saying? Okay. Here's another one. This person, I'll be exiting Austin soon, looking toward the hill country as a likely place to settle next. Looks really nice. Okay. I get it. This person's trying to just connect with the person, but they're not doing it in a good way. You know why? I don't even know who this person is, by the way. But nobody cares that this person's going to be exiting Austin soon and looking toward the hill country soon. Nobody cares. Okay. Nobody cares that person is wanting to say something about themselves. Right. And so it's not easy to not do, frankly. And I'm certainly in no means perfect about it, but if you go to New York City and you post on Facebook that you went to New York City, or you see somebody else post, don't talk about when you went to New York City. Just say awesome, right? Just try to leave the word I out of any social media commentary on anybody else's post, right? And you'll be less likely to be pulling the spotlight. Okay. Someone goes to a restaurant that you love, right? They post a picture, right? What is it? Anthony Hayes says Instagram eats first, right? You got to let Instagram see the food first before you actually taste it, right? If somebody does that, don't post, oh, I love that restaurant. I was there 2 weeks ago. Okay. Don't do that. Just say, that's a really great place. Enjoy. Okay. Everybody now knows, oh, hey, that person's been there, but I didn't use the word I to pull spotlight on me. Does that make sense? I'm ranting. I realize I rant on some of these things, right? But hopefully that's a concept that makes a difference to somebody. All right. Third on the checklist is to be indistractable in conversation. Indistractable. There's a book called Indistractable, by the way, and the guy's name just escapes me. It's like NIV is his first name or something like that. And Trent, you talked about master classes. Actually, I did do a master class from this guy. I don't know if it was from Masterclass Company, but it was a free master class to add. And they were trying to sell something, something bigger and better. It was pretty good. But you guys probably know some of the things that cause distractions, right? Whether you're on virtual world or you're face to face. There are things like where you sit in a restaurant. If you meet somebody in a restaurant, if you sit to where there's a lot of activity going on in the background, you're going to be more likely to be distracted. Does that make sense? Just choosing where it is that you sit. I was meeting with a CEO on Wednesday, CEO of a media company that I've done some consulting with. And this person is a very distracted person. And in our conversation, there were three of us. They called this meeting for me to meet a few of their new executives. And the CEO, probably looked down at his cell phone, 6 times in the course of a 40-minute conversation or something like that, right? He was distracted and he missed out on certain things. But this is really common when you're on a conversation where your job is to try to connect with somebody. Cell phones are kind of a no-no. I don't know if a video plays in this type of sharing format, but I have a video here. See if this plays right here. Let me make myself a little smaller. This is called the iPhone effect. This guy, by the way, Brian Johnson, guys in my division and around me know that I'm in love with this guy. I'm in love with all his stuff online. One of the greatest people to follow. But anyway, this is just a I don't know. It's 2 minutes, not even 2 minutes, about the iPhone effect. Let's see if it works. I don't think it's going to work. Not going to work. All right, let me.
You may need to share it a different way. Share it with the sound.
Yeah, I've got it right here. It's also in the folder. Okay, that you guys are know.
This
but
is
what
Brian Johnson again?
His name is Brian Johnson. And yeah, I'm going to share it a different way, but what's going to happen is it's not going to let me come back to this way of sharing very quickly again. All right, but it's worth it. This is 1 minute and 23 seconds. And I love, anyway, hopefully you'll like it.
Hi, this is Brian. Welcome back to another Optimize Plus One.
Yes.
Have you ever heard of the iPhone effect? Get this. Imagine bringing people into a lab, split them into 2 groups. One group sits down and chats with someone they've never met while a smartphone is visible on the table next to them. The other group sits down and chats with someone they've never met while a notebook is visible rather than a smartphone. And guess what? The group with the smartphone in sight reports a significantly diminished quality of interaction versus the group that didn't have the smartphone in sight. Now, the phone wasn't blowing up and it wasn't even their phone. The mere presence of that smartphone diminished the quality of their interactions. Enter the iPhone effect. Think about that for a moment. That's kind of nuts. So, today's plus one, the next time you're spending time with someone, remember the iPhone effect. Put your phone out of sight and ideally in airplane mode so you're not feeling any vibrations that will distract you. But only if you want to enhance the quality of your interactions. Plus one, and plus one.
All right. So, oh, sorry. Play it again. Don't play it again. So when I learned that right there, of course, I know that I get distracted when I'm on a Zoom call. I'm on whether it's, with division managers or whether it's something that was at SLC or whatever. I know. Hold on a second. I'm trying to make this thing work. All right. I know that I get distracted by those things. And so when I learned this, if I'm in a conversation or in a situation like right now where I need to not be distracted, well, I don't have my cell phone or my iPhone or iPad in view. Right now, I have a little cell phone thing right here that I could keep a cell phone on to be able to look at. And I have a little thing I can keep my iPad on right here. Okay. And there are times when I'm trying to multitask and do multiple things. And I don't know that any of them get the right kind of attention necessarily when I do try to do that. So since I've learned about this iPhone effect, I've tried to just not have it near me. Okay. And if it's in the room, it's not in sight. And one of Brian Johnson's master classes is when I heard him say that for the first time, said just by having a cell phone in sight, even if it's upside down, if it's in sight, it diminishes the quality of an interaction. And I thought, holy smokies, that was quite a brick in the face, I guess. All right, next thing I'll say is be mindful of body language and facial expression. Let me change my view here so I can see you guys. I'm going to share this way instead of the other way because it takes it a second to load. So when it comes to being mindful of this, there's two parts to it, and we're not going to get into a great detail. Some of this stuff is covered in the documents that you can look at, but You want to be mindful of your own or our own body language. Okay. If you'll ever watch me do training, you'll notice that many times throughout training, I will force myself to sit up straight and smile, okay, and take a breath, okay? Even when I do the demo, like if I do a sample demo for a training class, even 2 or 3 or 4 times just during that demo, I have to consciously remind myself to go from this hunched over, posture to a sitting up posture and force a smile on my face. Most of us don't smile naturally. Okay. Most of us, if you relax all the muscles in your face, it's not a natural smile. It's something we need to become conscious of. And also not just be conscious of our own body language and our own tonality and our own facial expressions, but we need to be conscious of the people that we're interacting with. Okay. If we're so absorbed with how I'm coming off, how am I coming across to this person because I want to make a good impression, sometimes we miss a lot of cues. You want to learn how to catch up on physical cues, facial cues, different things like that, verbal cues even. Vanessa Van Edwards has a brand new book out called Cues. Vanessa Van Edwards wrote a book called Captivate, and she's another person that I love following her stuff online. And I love her book. It was recommended by Brandon Brown. And probably before Brandon's message was over, he was giving a talk. I had got on Amazon, distracted by my phone, and ordered the doggone book. It was fantastic. Point 5 here is to listen slowly. Okay, listen slowly. In one of the documents that you'll have access to, there is one called Conversation Management. It is just how to properly hold a conversation. And there's one called Listening Dynamics. Okay, and in the one called Listening Dynamics, there are some very specific steps about this. So what I mean by listen slowly, if you're jotting some things down, this will also be in the doc, but pause before responding. That's one nugget. Okay, pause. Like when someone finishes talking, try to wait 2 seconds or even 3 seconds before responding. There's a few reasons for that. One reason is maybe they're not done and you just thought they were done. Okay. And nobody likes to be cut off. Like you're in the middle of an idea, you're trying to share something and you get cut off. It happens all the time. We do it. We don't even know that we're doing it. So being conscious. So try to do that. And the other thing is when we pause before responding, first, of course, it gives our brain a little bit more time to settle in. It helps us to think more clearly about what kind of response maybe there will be to give. But it also lets the other person know subconsciously, they're like, wow, this person really is considering what I'm talking about here. Okay. And that deepens, it deepens that connection. They say that one of the greatest compliments, there's a lot of these quotes, the best compliment you can give another person, right? And there's like 3 or 4 different really good answers to that. But one of the quotes is the best compliment you give another person is your time and attention. Giving someone else your attention is the greatest gift you can give another person. Another way you can listen slowly is to ask for more. Like when someone says something or makes a point several times in a conversation, our response should not be a response. Our response should be, give me more. Okay. Something like, tell me more about that. Okay. That's a really good one. You're talking to a rep and they're dealing with a challenge or an issue. Hey, tell me more about that, right? I'm feeling overwhelmed. I'm feeling really busy. Tell me more. Okay. Most people just want to be heard, right? Being able to have somebody genuinely listen to them is a luxury that most people in our culture, at least, they just don't really have. And believe it or not, there's nobody in their life that takes the time really to listen, because if they had nobody who's been through Vector and is Vector trained and had a workshop on how to connect, then, they don't have anybody in their life that knows how to do these things. Another way to ask for more is just say, why do you think that is? Okay. So you get them to expand on their thing, whatever they were saying, not just what, but why. Why do you think that is? Someone's saying that they had 4 no sales in a row or whatever. You could use it there. You could use it when someone's having, just having anxiety. Why do you think that is? Right. And then another way is simple, is there more you can share about that? Kind of along the lines of the same other one. Is there more you can share about that? There's probably dozens of different questions that you can ask. Tell me more about that. Why do you think that is? Here, I'll put those 3 in the chat here if you want to see them. Moving forward, respect questions from the other person. Okay, respect questions. hey, you guys know how it can be kind of frustrating when you have, let's just talk real about us and our reps. And some reps just have all the questions. They have all the questions. You say something, and then within 2 minutes after you said it, they ask a question about that exact thing that you said. Okay. Respect that. Respect the fact that I just think when someone's like that, that they need me more, they need us more than all these other people, right? Because they don't know how to focus. Maybe they don't know this, they don't know that. I don't think of them as more of a project. I just think if I can get through to this person, if I can get this person to make some sales or whatever, I'm doing a better service to that person than this super razor sharp person with a great network who probably is going to sell 4 homemakers in their first 4 demos. Just part of the DNA, my DNA, and how I think about our business. So how do we show that? How does that look? Respecting the questions from the other person. First of all, it's a mindset. Okay, that's the first part of it. But one way to do it is to compliment the question. Okay, I love when someone asks a question. My favorite response is, "Hey, Maddie, that is a great question." Right, and don't just say, "Great question, Maddie," like that. That's better than nothing. But it's better to say it nice and slow. David, hey, that is a really great question. I appreciate you asking that, which is the next thing is be grateful for the question. Okay. Be grateful that there's that question. There is a chance that if I get a question, especially if in a group setting, I didn't explain it as well as I thought I did. And there's a chance that other people may have the exact same question. Okay. Now, if you're in a group setting and you're trying to run training and there's somebody that's continually hitting up questions, you want to compliment their questions and say, hey, we need to take these questions offline so we can stay on track, but you got to respect it. You got to be grateful for it, and you got to make them feel good. When people ask questions, they should feel good that they asked a question. And especially in a group setting, if you make somebody feel bad or feel or shamed at all that they ask a question, then other people who have legitimately really good, important questions are going to be afraid to ask the questions too. Okay, so understanding how to handle questions in one-on-one, how to handle questions in groups, just be respectful of them and appreciate and compliment them. Be considerate of a person's time. Sometimes we think we're just rocking and rolling on this connection, but without us realizing it, we have exceeded the proper amount of time that we should have had with that particular person, and they're checked out, right? They're like, this is painful, right? And you don't realize it. You may have been on the other end of this, right? Where you were trying to get off of a conversation, right? And the other person just kind of keeps on going. By show of hands, who's that happened to? Okay. Here's what I think. I think when that happens, a good percentage of the time, I don't know what percentage, a good percentage of the time, maybe as high as 60 or 70 or 80%, the other person is thinking the same thing. They're thinking, man, I really want to finish this conversation, but I'm trying to not be rude to Dakota here. Okay, does that make sense? So you're thinking, I don't want to be rude, I don't want to cut it off, but they're thinking exactly the same thing. So how do you go about doing that? What does that look like? Well, I would say establish timeframes in advance when at all possible, right? Like if you're meeting up with somebody for a PC or a one-on-one or a coffee meeting, just say, hey, just out of curiosity, how much time do you have available? What are we on a time constraint here? Just ask the question, okay? Or if you've got a very specific time constraint without being rude, find out, or let them know what it is. And maybe by asking them first, then sharing what your time constraint is. But something should be agreed upon. And then you got to learn how to respect that, the agreed upon time frame. Probably of all these things, connection wise, this may be my worst one of all, right? So just so you know, I preach to myself when I see these things as well. Set an alert if you got to on your phone. And by the way, when you need to finish up a conversation, finish up a demo, finish up whatever, one way to do it is just a quick look at a watch or something. Hey, listen, Trent, I want to respect your time here. I know we have set aside X amount of time, and just that's one way to just kind of start the conversation of hey, let's finish the conversation is, oh my gosh, hey, I want to respect your time here. It's already been 20 minutes, whatever. And then you just and you move forward. Okay. And then the 8th tip on here, which is the last of these tips, is to follow up. Okay. There's something to be said for letting someone know later after a connection has been made or after a conversation is had, that you're thinking about them. Okay. So this has to do with being hyper aware of everything going on. Let's say I'm having a conversation with Zena here, and Zena and I, for whatever reason, I find out she's a fan of, a particular author or Dilbert or a sports team or whatever else. And let's say it's a sports team. Okay. Let's say she's a fan of the Astros, although was it Rob Chung basically hurt the connection to me by saying all Astros fans drink out of a straw. So that's connection kryptonite right there, Rob. No, I'm just teasing. We all know that's in good fun. But she's an Astros fan. And then, when the Astros win a game, to send a text message, hey, saw the Astros won, thought of you. How often do we do little things like that sometimes? Okay. And you want to be intentional about it. And I don't know, some people might think that's a tactic or a manipulative strategy, but I just think it just makes the person feel good, and I don't think anything that makes somebody else feel good within reason, I don't think is manipulation, right? Who made it famous? This thing, Mary Kay Ash, the founder of Mary Kay. Imagine everybody's walking around with the sign hanging around their neck that says, "Make me feel important, make me feel special." And I just did this with somebody just recently. I can't even remember who it was, but I just mentioned that, hey, I thought of you when this happened, and the person said, "Oh, it's really good to hear that someone was thinking about me." Okay, and they were just really open about it. Another thing is, here's the secret sauce. My secret sauce. I don't know if I should give away my secret sauce, but I think that sending a handwritten thank you note in all kinds of circumstances is one of the best things you could possibly do. So far, all but one person on the SLC speaker list has received a thank you note from me. There's only one person I haven't sent the thank you note to yet. Okay. I don't even have these addresses. I had to go to the national headquarters and say, hey, I need the addresses for these people. And they sent me their mailing addresses. Our Conference of Champions, everybody that worked on the region staff, everybody that spoke at our Conference of Champions, with the exception of 2 people so far on that list. And it doesn't have to be immediate, right? I like to send 2 or 3 a day until I've caught up with things like that. Kip Mangira came and ran a workshop for Southland, which was awesome. I don't know if you guys know Kip very well, but he's just this awesome young man. And I was so appreciative of his. And what can I do to show appreciation? And the first thing was just, I'm just going to send a thank you note. And I have custom thank you notes made. I came across this little graphic. It's like a little meme or something. It says, "You have the right to remain awesome. Carry on." Okay. And that's it. And it has my Cutco logo, Southland logo on it. And, it's a little thank you note. And they're not elaborate. Most of them, they're just, hey, just thanks for giving a great talk at SLC. It really made a positive impact on me. Okay. That goes a long way in creating connection. It makes the other person feel good. Sometimes I send a thank you note. I may never ever talk to that other person ever again for the rest of my life. I learned this as a Cutco rep. Send thank you notes to every demo, right? By the way, if you have a sales rep that's halfway serious about the job and they send a thank you note on every demo, just whether it's a sale or not even, right? First, I only send them to people who bought, but they do that. There will be good rewards. They will reap some rewards from that. But the key is, we don't teach them to do it so that they might get sales in the future. We teach them to do it because it's a good thing to do. It's a good thing to do. People like getting something in the mail that's not a bill or a piece of junk mail or something like that. You want to make yourself stand out. You want to be considered more, regarded more highly whenever people are considering people for promotions or various things like that. Be somebody who sends thank you notes. It will make a difference. I promise you that. So just a couple ideas on follow-up. Why is connection important? What was I going to do right here? Notes does not give me. Let me give you one more little 2-minute Brian Johnson video on here. This is also this video is in, where is this open? I have so many search buttons open here. Oh, it's right here. I think this is the one that is a little bit important. It's 1 minute and 57 seconds right here. And then I've got a couple of final wrap-up points. So let me share this screen with you. You guys see a new screen? All right.
Hi, this is Brian. Welcome back to another Optimize Plus One. In our last Plus One, we talked about how to tap into our flow superpowers. We referenced Stephen Kotler's gem from The Rise of Superman, and then connected that to our always evolving, astonishing productivity equation. Recall, when we get our energy times focus times what's important now mojo optimized, we can crank out a ton of awesomeness. Note, of course, this doesn't just apply to our work. The same exact equation applies to our love. If we want to connect at an astonishingly awesome level, what do we need? Well, we'd want to have our energy at 100. We'd want to be focused at 100 level on what's 100 level most important right now, which in the love scenario would be, of course, our loved one. Whether that's a spouse, a kid, a friend, a client, a colleague, or even a stranger for that matter. If you're burned out and tired, good luck having your highest possible awesome interaction. Likewise, if you're distracted by your smartphone or any other internal or external distraction, good luck having your highest possible awesome interaction. And of course, if we haven't decided that the person with whom we're interacting is the most important thing at that moment, we won't get too far. But if we've put the oxygen mask on ourselves first and taken care of ourselves so our energy is at or approximating 100, and we're 100% focused on the most important person at that moment, we can get our 100 times 100 times 100 equals 1 million points of awesome. And very important note, we don't need to measure that in hours. It's measured in moments. You can be 1 million points of awesome, fully, truly, powerfully present for someone for a minute or 3 and create an incredible connection. Let's do that today.
A couple of concepts I learned from Brian Johnson. One of them is just the concept of today. Like I used to hear me say today, not tomorrow, action TNT, today, not tomorrow. But I just like the word today, period. A lot of times when I'm charting in my journal, the very first thing I'll write is just the word today, period. And I learned that from Brian Johnson. But I thought of Trent Booth whenever I watched this, video, because when he said, that's 1 million points of awesome, that to me just sounded like something Trent Booth would say. I don't know about you guys, but that's that kind of thing. So why is connection important? Look, you guys, we could have a discussion on, and every one of you would come up with a dozen reasons, right? Why it's important to connect, right? Building trust helps you have a better influence. Really what it boils down to is having a good connection with somebody. And I talking about somebody who there's trust there, that they feel confident that we've got their best interest in mind. There's so much more we can do with and for a person when the connection is there. And there's very little we can do that's really good for a person if we don't have the connection there. So when we're thinking about how do we improve training, how do we improve sellers percentage? I know that people say zero sellers, reduce zero sellers. Well, I don't want to reduce zero sellers, because I don't want to focus on zero sellers. I want to focus on sellers. So I don't say, let's reduce the zero sellers. You know what I say? Hey, let's increase the number of sellers, right? Let's focus on what we want, not what we don't want, for crying out loud. Anyway, it's another rant I get on sometimes. So what is it about connection that allows us to have that influence? Friedrich Nietzsche, let me share this one. Nietzsche said this: invisible threads are the strongest ties. Okay, invisible threads are the strongest ties. There is a concept that, as I was doing some consulting for some network marketing, some multi-level marketing companies, that I taught to a lot of their top people. And it is this concept I call spider webbing. Okay. And it came to me one morning. I was walking around my neighborhood and I saw this spider web. And there was the morning dew was on it and everything. And I just saw the spider web, and I saw how many different points of connection there were, right, on a spider web, right? There's all kinds of little points of connection. And I came back and I looked up spider webs, and I started doing research on spider webs. Did you know that a spider web is the strongest? Let's see, how is it worded? I might say this wrong, but you'll get the concept. The strongest structure, the strongest material on Earth by weight, okay, is a spider web. Okay, stronger than concrete, because it's so how strong it is based on how light and thin it is, basically. Okay, so I thought, wow, that's remarkable. And if I've got people I want to bring into an organization, for example, and I want them to stick, right? Well, the more connections that we can make, strong connections, the stronger that person's stickiness in the organization is, right? This is why if you're a district manager, you want to connect your up and coming new reps with as many other people as possible. Make a connection with an assistant manager, another top rep, your division manager. The more connections, the better. I call this spider webbing. Okay. You should work out something, some kind of program with the division manager where when someone reaches 3,000 in sales, you send a 3-way text and you create a little bit of a connection, right? And then the division manager strengthens that connection. But these invisible threads, these are the strong ties. I'm sure you've all heard, it's easy to quit a job, but hard to quit a relationship or hard to quit a friendship. Okay. Well, the more of those relationships that we create, the stronger the spider web is. Okay, so just a concept, maybe, I don't know, maybe that is something that resonates with you guys. And here's the one right here, okay? To be a good connector so you could be a good connector, right? Some of you guys are looking at this like, what does that mean right there? You guys obviously notice that the two connectors are spelled differently, right? So the first connector is what we've been talking about mostly. Okay, we've been talking about making a good connection with another human being, right? That's kind of a something, or making connection with God or with nature, whatever. But when we get good at that, that makes us better at being a connector, one who connects. Okay, not connects with another person, but one who might connect to other people. So if you buy into this spider webbing concept, right, you need to understand that we need to connect with an individual better, so that when we connect that individual with somebody else to strengthen their tie within the organization, we're more effective at making connections with other people. Okay. I happen to believe with humility, I guess, or maybe with the opposite of humility, that I'm a really good connector. Okay. That was when I realized that after when I was in Vector, and then I did other things for a little while and stayed home and helped homeschool my daughter and work with my special needs son, and a lot of different things that happened, reasons that I took my leave of absence from Vector. But that's what I found out, that I was really good at connecting people. Okay. Because I know a lot of people. I know a lot of people in Vector. Some that are still in Vector, some that aren't in Vector. I met lots of business people. I did a lot of networking in some wealthy areas and some different things. And I'll tell you, it was remarkable how, since I had so many connections that I had with other people, how I could figure out, this person should probably meet this person, and to make those connections, and how appreciative. And there are thriving business relationships that existed and still exist to this day and I feel really good because I made connections with people, 15, 20 years ago. I made connections with different people. So I don't know if you think that's like the next level of connecting, is being a connector as opposed to a connector, but super key. The workshop documents. Okay, let me just share with you guys what these documents look like. And there's one of them I'm going to give you a little tiny workshop on right now because it's one of my favorite things. And if I did not do this, I would feel like I had failed. Okay, so where's the master class? Here it is right now. Okay, so here's the Google Drive. Trent, I think you're going to post this or make sure people have this. So those two videos that we just watched, if you want to utilize those, are right here. And actually, one of them I needed. Yeah, anyway, this is my notes. Okay, there's the workshop on conversation management, listening dynamic. The listening dynamics. Let's see. So this actually is written in a workshop form. Like if you have a live workshop with somebody, it's got fill in the blanks, and then here are with the blanks filled in. Okay, so it's a whole workshop just on listening, how to be a better listener. I touched on a few of those things, but I wanted to share with you guys this right here. 3 steps to giving a proper compliment. Okay. Some of you guys have heard me teach this before. My very first SLC talk, 1990, might have been 1993, actually, in the spring of 1993. In fact, Trent, the year that we did end up winning our first silver cup. This is one of the things that I taught. And I still, to this day, I have DVMs, and I didn't make this up. I wish I could say I did. I learned it from a district manager in Berkeley, California at the time, David Hebert, by the way, if you wanted to know who it is. None of you probably know him. 3 steps to give a proper compliment. What is the purpose of a compliment? Just as simple purposes: to make a positive impact on the person receiving it, to show appreciation, to form or strengthen a connection, to make the world a better place. How cliche, right? You can use this, by the way, as a workshop anytime. Fundamental keys to compliments and connection building conversations. Keep focus on the other person, not self-promoting or self-serving. Talked about that today. Keep it succinct. Why say blah, blah, blah when blah will do the job? Okay. Love this quote. Wish I was better at it, but I love it. And certainly when I do written word, I'm really, really, really good at making that happen in writing. Give compliments without specific expectations. In other words, you don't compliment somebody so you can get something in return. You wait and you see where it leads. And then last thing on compliments, fundamental connection building, is it's not about you. Okay. And that's one thing that we all probably need to hear every single day. In fact, we probably all should put something on our bathroom mirror, like a sign that says, it's not about you, right? So we are reminded of that constantly. Step 1, say something positive about a person to that person. Some examples. That's a nice tie. I really liked your speech. Congrats on your award. You did a great job on the service project. Okay. That is just saying that this is where most people, that's as far as they go in giving a compliment. Okay. You can probably fill in 100 different examples of this. Then the next step is to follow up with a specific reason for the positive statement. Okay. So here's some examples. Hey, that's a nice tie. It matches perfectly with your pocket square. So you see, I took it one second step. Okay. Or it blends really well with your suit and your shirt. Okay. Or, that's a nice dress. Love how it matches your shoes, whatever. I really liked your speech. You really impacted me to take some positive changes in my health and well-being. Okay. Now this is an example of bringing me into it, but if their speech was to impact me, then bringing me into it doesn't take the spotlight off of them and onto me. It still keeps, in a case like this, some cases it actually still keeps the spotlight on them. Okay. Or congratulates on your award. It must have taken a huge effort to accomplish this. And then you did a great job on the service project. It was obvious that you care a lot about the cause. Okay. So the point is just figuring out what's something more specific we can say about the compliment. And this is really good on thank you notes, by the way. If you're going to write a thank you note, thank you for giving a great speech at SLC, something specific about the speech, an impact it made on you, whatever, that helps that compliment be stronger. In a thank you note, step 3 is not as important. It doesn't really fit as well, but sometimes you can make it work. But the last part of a good compliment is to follow up with a relevant question. Why do we do this? Because people don't know how to receive compliments a lot of times. They get embarrassed. But if you follow up with a question and give them a chance to say something besides, poo-pooing the compliment, like a lot of people do that. I do that sometimes. People give me a compliment and I'll say, oh yeah, but, and then I'll kind of try to diminish the compliment, right? And that's just, people shouldn't do that, but we do. That's a nice tie, matches perfectly with pocket square. Did you buy the tie and the pocket square at the same time? And now they have, instead of being embarrassed about the compliment, they can say, oh, actually, no, totally separate. I just noticed it in my closet, right? Oh, that is awesome. And then that conversation could go a lot of places from there, but it gives them a chance to talk. Okay. And that's how to be in charge of a conversation, is be the one asking questions, not answering questions, as we know. I really like your speech. You really impacted me to take some positive changes in my health and well-being. How did you learn so much about nutrition and fitness? Let's say that was what the talk was about, right? Again, it's specific about them, and they love people, man, they thrive. They relish being able to answer questions like this. Okay, I should say we, not they. We all love it. Congrats on your award. Must take a huge effort. What were 1 or 2 of the biggest challenges you overcame? And people will dig on telling you this, sharing this with you. And then you did a great job on the service project. It's obvious you care a lot about the cause. What got you interested in this? Okay, something simple. I like, and these are kind of things you can create some very specific questions and compliments you can give people on demos, right? Been asking about what their job is. Why did they get involved in that job and that type of thing? So finally, there's a little conclusion here. Giving a proper compliment simple becomes more natural with practice. This skill can help start meaningful conversations that can lead to meaningful connections. At the very least, a well-executed proper compliment can make a positive difference in someone's life, and as a result, can propel that person to greater confidence, achievement, and impact. We never know the degree of benefit something as simple as a proper compliment can have on the whole of humanity. And that kind of brings me full circle back to what I talked about at the beginning. which is, we don't really know the long-term impact that we have. We know it's great. I know it's great, but I don't know how deeply it goes. You guys might remember Al DeLeonardo saying something at SLC, and he quoted Mark Lovis. I don't know if he knew he was quoting Mark Lovis, but he said basically this: be on purpose and off self. Do you guys remember this? Al saying this, and I saw somebody quoting Al. I don't know if Mark Lovis was the original. I could Google it, and I don't find anybody prior to Mark Lovis basically saying this, but being on purpose and off self. So if you understand and can buy into this concept, think about what I said at the very beginning of this workshop when my little definition of connection says, if this is true, this is the line I said, remember this line: the more we truly connect, the more we truly live. Then perhaps, if that's true, perhaps if we want to truly live, we should make connection our purpose. So those are my thoughts on connection. Hopefully I aimed small enough.
Strong. Love it. Thank you for all the preparation going into this. I know it's a topic you're so passionate about, but it's a gift to us to bring this type of prep into the masterclass. So thank you for that. Friends, if you have questions, I'm going to encourage you to either flag me down here or drop them in the chat here. I have a question to kind of get us started here. Just curious. So if we go back for a second for social media, that seemed to get some energy here. If we want to keep it about them, can you give us an example of kind of like you're complimenting there? What is a positive way if we want to connect with them to keep it about them and comment, let's say, on I've got chickens, I've got this is my life now. What's a great way to actually do that? Can you give us an example?
Well, on the chicken one, for example, it just say, that's awesome. You must be having a blast. I mean, it's something as simple as that. Just keeping myself out of it. Just because I have experience with chickens doesn't mean I need to take the spotlight off of the person posting. The best one, and the example I think I gave something similar, is when someone posts, and there's a lot of food posts, right? I mean, isn't it funny that, on their side note about New York City restaurants and some complaints that, well, I'll say people were complaining about the time in New York City restaurants. This is before pandemic, but they were complaining about how long it took to get a table and to do this and to do that. And when they brought in a researcher to try to figure out what in the world is going on here, why is it taking so much longer to people to get food and get seated and all this? And it's because of the extra, 10 minutes that people took taking pictures. What's with the advent of smartphones, taking pictures of their food right before they ate it, and then taking pictures of the people afterwards, and asking the waiter or the waitress to come and take a picture or whatever. And so humans were causing their own thing that they hated because of the advent of smartphones. Anyway,
if we read between the lines, sorry, go ahead. Carry on, brother. My bad. I was interrupting there instead of pausing for 3 seconds. My bad.
Yeah, good. So when someone posts some food at a particular restaurant and you've been it and you love that restaurant, just don't say, I love that restaurant. Say, that is an awesome restaurant. Enjoy. Mm-hmm. You can even say, let's go together sometime. I suppose that would work, because that makes connection. But just, I love that restaurant. I was there 2 weeks ago. That takes it on me as opposed to keeping it on them, if that makes any sense.
No, this actually inspires another question. So let's say you've been to Paris. Somebody posts a picture of Paris. Mm-hmm. Do you use your knowledge from that city to actually ask a better question or give a better compliment?
Sometimes. Just try to leave the word I out of it. If you just make that the rule, then likely it's going to be better than not. Just leave the word I out of it. Not, I love the Louvre. Okay. Sure. The Louvre is awesome. The line for the Mona, how long was the line for the Mona Lisa? Sure. People know, well, he's probably been there because he knows about the line, whatever. Sure. But if they're there, and you want to enhance the thing, send a private message, to them too, as opposed to trying to let the world know that, hey, I've been there and I love the place. And there's this really great restaurant to go to. A private message might do it.
Sure. Or even a sweet, what's your favorite restaurant so far? Right.
That's something like that. That's fantastic. Yeah. Good. That way they're giving you a recommendation, because if you say, oh, you got to go to so-and-so restaurant, do you know the likelihood that they're actually going to go to that so-and-so restaurant? They're not going. Okay. Unless you're like Bill Gates or somebody, or unless you're like, Anthony Bourdain, or, I mean, you have to have some massive influence on this person, to be able to do that.
I love this. Friends are having fun with the Instagram debate over here in the chat.
Yeah.
Questions for Brad, questions, comments, or thoughts and or ways that you'd like to implement this. I mean, if you think about the application for this masterclass, right? This would impact your training, interviews, PDI, TLA, time with your AMs, your staff meetings, and even just family conversations. If you were to apply this actually hits a lot, you might even argue, every aspect of life. So if this is an area that you're interested in and want to go a little deeper in, this is your opportunity to ask JBB a question or two. We're going to wrap it up in just a few moments here, but last call for questions, comments, or thoughts, or things that were a nugget for you that, I took some notes here, as you can see, my mind map. In fact, one page wasn't enough.
Mind mapping, yes.
I had lots. And I decided to go linear after that. But you're talking about the handwritten thank you note, and I've benefited from receiving those. Somebody did drop that in the chat a little bit earlier, saying they are the best. Mike Schmidt says handwritten newsletter notes, scanned and emailed weekly, will be a new habit. Used to do this in person, but why not a virtual touch? And, Mike, we want to give us a little more thoughts there, because you could probably type it, but you're talking about the handwritten newsletter notes that you're going to scan and send.
Somebody taught me this. So you'd print out the page or anything and you'd like write on them. And basically it's like, you're awesome, keep it up. And the problem with doing this on a weekly basis, it doesn't come very timely. That's why you had to hand it to them. I was like, oh, well, how can I do that how can I get that expediency, but with the hand touch? I think that might go. I was immediately like, oh, maybe I'll just do an Apple Pencil, but my old iPad doesn't work. So I was like, okay, how I'm going to do this by hand and scan it. I was just trying to figure out, but
Sharpie's underrated.
Yeah, Sharpie's underrated.
Yeah,
I love
I've done that too. Take a note. My handwriting is so bad. I send thank you notes. I'm not even sure people can read them, but I think they get it generally. But everybody loves getting a thank you note. I mean, I love getting a thank you note. I got a thank you note from Stuart Nato a week ago, and I had a conversation with Stuart. I was sharing some insight that I didn't know if he was making sense to him or if he agreed or whatever. But maybe he was just making me feel good. I don't know. But he wrote, hey, that lesson you taught me about so-and-so, or that you shared about so-and-so is a lesson I'll remember for the rest of my life, something like that. I was like, dude, like framing this, thank you. I didn't frame it, but it makes everybody feel good, because people don't know, you don't know when you have a conversation with somebody if you're getting through or if they're really appreciating it all the time, unless they let you know. So we should let people know. If someone has a conversation that's impactful for you and you'd like more of those kind of conversations, drop them a note. I mean, an email is good, but a handwritten in the mail thank you note, I don't know, maybe just because it takes people know it took a little extra time, but you get a rep to do that, to send every single person a thank you note. They're going to get leads show up randomly from those people. I mean, there's so many things that happen because people out there just aren't used to somebody taking the time to do that. That is an above and beyond Cutco customer service type of thing to do.
It was a big deal in the 90s, and I must have got this from one of your FSMs back in 94, because I was doing this with my reps back in that day. Maybe Ken Schmidt maybe even suggested this. Boy, I watched him on a VCR tape back in the day. That was our Vector Connect back then, was the bank of VHS tapes. So the handwritten was effective in the 90s. It's more effective now because nobody writes anything by hand anymore, right? So one of the things that Schmidt was saying there is actually writing it as opposed to typing it. It's easy to type on it, but there's something about, even if it's chicken scratch, I'm saying it's special. Something that was popular for a little while at least was being able to send something that looked like a handwritten note, but it's still manufactured. And that's not nearly as cool as a handwritten note, even if it doesn't look great because you can't you have chicken scratch writing. But the fact that you took the time to do it and it's yours, it's very personal, just as singular as your thumbprint is, your handwriting is unique to you. And I will tell you, if you found notes or cards that were written to you from years ago, there's something really special and something to be said. In fact, even I've have handwritten notes. I was given my grandfather's Bible. He was a pastor, and he has handwritten notes in his Bible. And to see those now, I'm like, that is precious to me. And part of what makes that precious is that handwritten special touch there. Thoughts around that, JBB, your experience with that? Just the handwritten touch, part of that?
I think it matters, and it really makes a difference when you send them something to people that, you don't really have any direct benefit from them. Like there's a lot of FSMs, mostly Western region, because they're the ones that I know that, I'll just notice their name on a report, had a good week or having a good campaign or grew over the year before. Just, it means a lot to those people because they know I don't make any money from them selling. I don't get any immediate short-term benefit. I mean, long-term, I don't know, maybe, but
Well, two words come to mind here as we draw this to a close here. And I know some people had to run for interviews, et cetera. And thank you for joining us. Some of you are, I know, at the airport and listening in, and we appreciate you making the time to be here. I think that feels like a handwritten love letter to us that are hosting this. Altruism and empathy. And I think these are two words that you've embodied for so long, JBB. And what I love about being able to talk with about you and attaching those words to you is they're the same when we hosted a podcast 2.5 years ago. They were the same in 1995 when I would have met you for the first time. And attached to that is a story that I did share on the podcast, and I've put that link back up here. Was in 2004, I believe, might have been 5. I was very new in my national role, and Brad knew me a little, but I wasn't really anybody super special. I certainly wasn't a high-ranking national figure, but I was coming out to his region at that point for one of my first national visits. And I'm nervous. I'm trying to make a good impression. And not only did he invite me, which was big, he invited my whole family to not only come to the event and put us up at the hotel, which was kind of sweet. We had 2 kids that were under 4 at the time. He invited us to hang out at his house for a couple of hours. And again, the love letter of saying, hey, you're important, you are valuable. The word altruism is defined as being radically sold out for the good of others. And this was an example of that. I meant nothing to Brad's future or even to his people. And at that point, you might go, well, you were Trent Booth. I wasn't then. But part of the reason that I could become that figure is people like Brad believing in me and investing into me and just showing wild, almost reckless love in that moment to support us. And in terms of empathy, just actually giving a blank, right? Keeping this PG so far. The idea of being able to really being interested in them because they have value, that deep amount of empathy. And you use the word curiosity. You've been embodying this for so long, JBB, and I just want to thank you for showing up and just bringing the best version of you here for today. We're going to make the last word yours here before we hit stop on the recording.
Well, all right. So that's one of the 4 core philosophies. I just encourage people to think about their own, core philosophies. Who you're about, what are you, what matters, what's important. And for me, it's connection, execution, doing what we say, doing what we know we're supposed to do, right? There's a whole, hours of training that we could talk about that, or discussion we could have. Third is simplicity, right? Trying to make things simpler. And even if something can't get any simpler, just having a mindset that there's a simpler way to do it causes us to move in that direction, and keeping things as simple as possible. And then gratitude should be pursued, just like connection. Connection needs to be pursued. Gratitude needs to be pursued. Gratitude and entitlement cannot exist in the same place in the universe. And there's a lot of paradigms around that. And then finally, the last one that I added was contribution. And I just encourage you guys, whenever we do our next Cutco Cares adventure, I've already started researching some ideas in Maui. I got a couple of really cool ideas. I don't know if we can do or not, but it won't be the kind of thing where we go to an orphanage, and play with little kids probably. But there's some environmental beneficial projects that we can participate in out there in the Hawaiian Islands. And hopefully we'll be able to make that happen. It's kind of short notice, and it's weird because it's pandemic still, and Hawaii has some rules, but focus, anybody who focuses on contribution is going to improve the quality of their life, I believe. So there you go. Thanks, Trent.